Good afternoon, class. Today we're going to continue our discussion, our unit on climate change by introducing the greenhouse effect. I'm going to start off by giving you an example of what the greenhouse effect is, and then we're going to talk about how it relates to global climate change and our climate system. Okay, so I want you to imagine that you're sitting in a car on a hot summer day. You're sitting in a car, a couple of hours goes by, it starts to get really hot in this car, right? Why is that? We have the sun is beating into the windows, right? And we know from our previous discussion that this is called solar radiation, right? And that radiation is being absorbed by different parts inside the car. It's being absorbed inside the seats, on the steering wheel, all the different parts of the car. Now, if you were in a car with no windows or no top, maybe, a lot of that radiation, it would leave. It would go back out into the environment, right? But why is it so hot in the car? It's hotter inside the car, we said, than outside the car. Okay, it's hot inside the car because we have the windows rolled up, and the windows are essentially trapping this heat from leaving the car. Okay, so this is a lot like a greenhouse. This is why it's called the greenhouse effect. If you've ever seen a greenhouse, you know it's essentially just a building all made out of glass that we keep plants in, right? And these buildings get really warm even in the wintertime because, again, as solar radiation comes in and warms different parts of the building, it's not able to leave. It's trapped inside the building, or in this case, the car. And that's why it's able to get so hot inside this car. So, how does this relate to global climate change? Well, when we're talking about global climate change, our windows that we have rolled up, these are actually just different molecules that we have moving around inside the atmosphere. Now, we've talked about these earlier in the week. Some of these molecules are greenhouse gases, we call them. And what are some of these greenhouse gases? Some of you might remember carbon dioxide was one. We write that as CO2, right? We have methane as one. CH4, you guys all remember that. And also our nitrous oxides. NOx is how we abbreviate that. We also have there are many different kinds of greenhouse gases, but these are some of the most important ones that we're going to focus on today. So, what's going on with global climate change? Why is the Earth, the Earth, you hear a lot of different things about global warming, climate change, the Earth is heating up, etc. What's actually going on here? Well, what is happening is, we're going to pretend that's a nice perfect circle. This is our planet Earth, right? Now, as solar radiation comes in from the sun way over here, it's bombarding us with radiation, right? Draw that in green. Our radiation is bombarding the Earth, right? In the form of energy. Some of this energy, some of this radiation leaves, goes back into space, right? Just like when we're sitting inside the car, some of the radiation, it leaves. But we have some molecules in the atmosphere, like carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide. These essentially act as almost like a glass barrier that keeps a lot of this radiation in. It doesn't let it leave. So we can imagine we have all this radiation coming in, only some of it is leaving now, right? And some of it is hitting our CO2 and it ends up coming back into the environment. So what we experience is, over time, just like our car was warming up, just like our greenhouse in which we have plants, just like that was warming up, our planet has experienced a little shift over the past 100 years or so in temperature. It's gone up in temperature as we have increased the concentration of some of these gases. Now, how do we increase the concentration of these gases? Does anyone know how might you increase the concentration of carbon dioxide? Any ideas? You have an idea?
Like your car?
Yeah, exactly. So carbon dioxide is emitted from your car in the form of exhaust. And obviously we have a lot more cars now than we did maybe 50 or 100 years ago. We're emitting a lot more carbon dioxide into the environment. We're trapping a lot more of that solar radiation. A lot more of this is staying in the environment than is leaving. All right? So what we're going to do is I want us to think about some different situations in which we change the concentrations of these gases. And we're going to figure out how that would affect possibly the temperature on Earth, keeping things pretty simple. Okay? So I'm going to imagine, we're going to do this first one together, and then I'm going to give you one to do on your own. So we're going to imagine our planet Earth, everything's going as normally planned. All of a sudden we have a volcano that erupts. Alright? Now I'm going to tell you, volcanoes, they release a lot of these gases into the environment. Alright? They release a lot of these gases into the environment. And we also have, I'm going to say, we had a forest here, a big forest with a lot of trees on this side of the planet. And somebody came in and we cut down a lot of these trees. Does anyone have an idea about how these two factors would change the concentration of our greenhouse gases and possibly change the temperature of our planet? Anybody have any ideas? What do you think? So we know that the volcano, like I said, okay, we're going to increase the concentration of carbon dioxide. So that's going up. Now, what happens when you cut down trees? Well, we remember from our previous unit, trees, they act as sinks of carbon. They absorb carbon dioxide from the environment, right? So, if we had a lot of trees absorbing carbon dioxide, that would actually decrease the concentration, but I'm telling you that we cut them down, right? That's exactly right. So that would also serve to increase the concentration of our carbon dioxide in the environment. So what would happen to our global temperature? If we know, keeping things simple again, this essential result is that we have a lot more carbon dioxide up in our atmosphere. What would happen to the temperature?
It would increase?
That's right, thank you. Very good. The temperature would increase because, again, we're trapping solar radiation in. It's trying to leave, but it can't. So we're going to experience an increase in temperature. All right, so we did that one together, and now I'm going to give you an example to try on your own. So I'm going to tell you that what's happening in our environment is we have a new country appears. Planet Earth, and they all drive cars there. They're building a lot of cars, and everybody's driving. It's the exciting thing on our new country, and everybody's driving. So we have, just gonna write, we add cars. Okay, that's happening over here. Now on this other side of the planet, there's a disease. There's a disease over here that is causing a lot of small plants and shrubs to die. A lot of vegetative plants. Alright? So they are getting sick and they are dying. Alright. So I want you to be able to predict what's going to happen to our temperature and why based on these two factors. Okay? So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do this on your own. I'll be floating around if you have any questions, and then we're gonna figure it out, all right? Okay, wonderful. So it looks like most of you have figured this out. We saw that when we remove plants from the environment, just like we saw in our previous example, this is just the same as cutting down trees, right? This plant disease is very similar to that. It's having a similar effect, and that is going to increase the concentration of carbon dioxide, right? What about the addition of new cars that are driving, releasing carbon dioxide? Exactly. And we also know that's nitrous oxide. Cool. So, what will we see with our global temperature? Volunteer?
It will increase.
Global temperature, again, will increase. So we know that temperature will increase. Again, this is a very simplified model of what happens. We know climate is super complicated, right? And we're going to be getting more into the different factors that affect this. But understanding how the greenhouse effect works is a really important tool that you can use to be a part of this global debate on what's happening to our climate and what we can do to change it.